Bonjour mon ami, this is my Sealy doing another commentary video for Napoleon Total War. I am commanding the French and my opponent Alexander commands the Russians, and he is in possession of a 20-pound unicorn, and today we will see the vicious power of that artillery piece exhibited upon the poor marching men of my fusiliers of the line on my right flank. As you can see, the shots are beginning, and we will soon be taking casualties. And there's the first. A vicious blast hits the center of my line, and we lose several men. But that is not all. The fighting and the firing will continue shortly. I am advancing against my opponent, and we are losing men from his artillery. As you can see, this Fusilier is down to 89 out of 120 and has yet to enter combat. And just more and more men are being shot to pieces, 71 out of 120. And there's a huge canyon in the middle of their lines, and so they will reform over the dead bodies of their comrades. On the left flank, I have my cavalry moving into position to take advantage of his limited forces on his right flank. He has an artillery piece firing at me, and also he possesses Cossack cavalry, which is it's a Lancer cavalry unit, but of rather poorer quality than my Lancer. I possess the Polish Guard Lancers, an elite unit, and the Carabiners, which is another elite unit. And on my left flank, my skirmishers have opened the fight against his line infantry, and they are taking casualties and yet advancing. And on my left flank, my lancers charge in, and these are the Polish Guard Lancers, and they will inflict heavy damages. As we ride with them, they will skirt past the Cossack cavalry, almost nose to nose, in order to hit my opponent's artillery, and he will see this and he will attack and attempt to hammer and anvil me, but I am the one who will be able to accomplish that maneuver as my carabiners rush in from behind. And back on my right flank, I have my cavalry encircling his men as well. They are in flanking position, ready to charge. As our line infantry move closer, we can see that some men are even already beginning to break. His line infantry has started to run, while my voltigeurs my voltigeur skirmishers fire on them, and my fusiliers of the line prepare to attack his main force of line infantry. Towards the center, I have brought up my general, Napoleon Bonaparte, and he looks on the fighting with a stern gaze of a great commander. And to the left, I am advancing my cavalry to take out his commander, a general staff unit, and they will be able to encircle him and defeat him. And on my right flank, I bring in my cavalry in order to neutralize the 20-pound unicorn that is so viciously destroying my men. As you saw earlier, its advantages are quite a long range and a vicious, terribly powerful charge on its guns. And so, speaking of charges, my men are charging in, and they will inflict damages. The Dutch Guard Lancers, another elite Lancer cavalry unit. And at this moment, my men on my left flank have moved to my center, and they will hit the general staff of my opponent. And his guard begins to fall, and his commander will soon fall with his guard, and they will rout. And on the right, my cavalry are inflicting more damages, and his men continue to rout. And now his general is killed, and his men will lose morale as a result. Back on my left flank, the fight between the line infantry continues. I have my men set up in flanking position, and they are able to fight well. However, he has advanced his grenadiers, and they are about to lob their vicious grenades right into the ranks of my fusiliers of the line, and we will see how this is outcomed. And you can see it explodes quite quite heavily, but I am only losing several men. And so I have begun to break past his lines, which will give me a good opportunity for flanking fire on his line infantry. Back on the right flank, the great cavalry fight is over, and his men and his artillery piece have been routed. And so now I have open range with my cavalry in order to inflict even more damages upon his failing lines. The left is still the main area of concentration. I attacked with a left flank strike, and my howitzer is now setting up after moving forward, and they will fire quite shortly. And at this moment I bring in my right flank. As you can see, the damages done to my fusiliers of the line have been extensive. Without firing a shot, they have lost quite a few men. They are down to 49 out of 120, and yet these brave souls, battered and weary from their attack by the 20-pound unicorn, will advance forward with the line infantry. And behind the line infantry lies the old guard, the elite, the old, the wonderful, and they will charge forward with my men in order to give supporting fire. I've moved Napoleon to the left flank in order to support the main confrontation here, and my men are getting quite good flanking fire on his line infantry. They have routed his grenadiers, and they are fleeing from the fight. Behind the lines, my cavalry move in to attack his cavalry, who have returned from routing, and another unit of my cavalry is moving back towards the conflict in order to provide their support for the line infantry battle that has commenced. As you can see, there are casualties being taken on all sides, but as a result of my positioning, his men are just flanking left and right from the mostly left, as this is the my left flank, and so his men will run away. But his grenadiers return from the fight if they are reduced in numbers. And I will continue my flanking fire at this moment, and as you can see, there's a howitzer blast from my team, and so the damages that my men took are being reciprocated upon his. And so I will charge in my cavalry in order to continue to inflict those damages. This is one of his militia units, and they have rather cool uniforms, big long green trench coats, but they cannot form square, and so they will be cut down by my Polish Guard Lancers. And he has charged his Lifeguard Foot, his unique elite unit, against my Fusiliers, the Fusiliers that had so bravely taken the artillery attack from earlier. And so he will fight them, and they will begin to break quite shortly, and they will run. Depleted in numbers, they still held for a long time on this battlefield. As you can see, his left flank is totally, or excuse me, his right flank is totally gone, as my left flank has washed over them. And so now I will move my men to the center to concentrate force on his remaining men. And his men, his Lifeguard Foot, will run as they come in confrontation with the Polish Legion, one of Napoleon's most strong allies during the entire course of the Wars of the Coalition were the Polish, and this was because of Napoleon's love for their country and his giving them independence in the Warsaw Duchy. As you can see, my cavalry have attacked from behind in order to cause his men to rout, and that is accomplished. And so, remaining on the field, he just has several arbitrary units scattered about. Some have returned from routing, like these musketeers, but they are all depleted in numbers. And so my men will chase them down, and this fight is nearly over. You can see my howitzer continues to harass these musketeers, and now my cavalry will harass them to the point of breaking. And these musketeers, will flee from the field quite shortly, and there they go. And now his grenadiers will face the attack from my men, and they try to form square, but with carabiners, who are elite cavalry, it's very difficult to oppose them. And so all that is left his one single unit of musketeers on his very far right flank. And so I move my skirmishers in to fight these remaining units. And with my range, they will be able to inflict some quite heavy damages as his men charge forward to bring their shorter range muskets to bear upon my Voltigeurs. And now the opening shots are fired, and some of his men will fall. And yet they continue forward at the charge. They will bring their bayonets to bear and attempt to kill my skirmishers man on man. But due to my continuous fire, it is not enough, and they will rout even before coming to hand-to-hand combat. And this is the end of the battle. Good game to my opponent, Alexander. You can see the results right here.